And ladies and gentlemen, this is your Public Relations Director, Admiral Radish. We are getting live views now of the Gale Weaver probe on the pad, launching from Guam at approximately 23:55 UTC. That is 23:55 UTC. It's an important launch today, as this will be the first launch aboard the Staghorn booster, the first operational launch replacing the Mule booster, the Mule 5 booster, which has been our primary launch and recovery vehicle up until this point on the server. You can see now, just inside, 46.5 minutes for launch. Once again, taking off out of Guam today. The current plan for the stream today is we'll be having a further discussion on the probe here at about T-minus 30 minutes to launch. And then we'll have a further walkthrough of the terminal count and the steps that we'll see there. Right now you're seeing live views of the Gale Weaver probe on the pad in Guam. Once again, this is going to take off into an Earth orbit today, preparing for a trans-Neptunian injection. The eventual mission profile for this probe will take it into a collision course with Neptune's atmosphere. So for those of you who are just joining us, some information about the Gale Weaver probe. This is a probe that was built during a live public forum within just a couple days ago now. During the construction of the probe, we took public recommendations for the design, individual components, and then over the course of the last few days, we've had a public initiative within our Discord server in order to get flags, stickers, emblems to place on the side of the probe here. Currently, the probe is carrying more than a dozen individualized stickers, flags, and emblems, 24 by the count of it, which represent all different people and places here within the Kerbal Real-Time server. We're inside 45 minutes to launch now, just approaching T-minus 43. Once again, still preparing the final terminal countdown checklist, but we're currently targeting a launch time of 23:55 on the dot. That would be UTC May 31st. And this is Public Relations Director Admiral Radish and Director of CASA. Just saying that within the next few minutes here, we're hoping to have a live discussion with the launch director of today's flight and the Gale Weaver mission designer, Grateful Deadbeat. We'll be launching from Guam today, within about 37 minutes now. The plan for this vessel is to go into a parking orbit around Earth in preparation for its trans-Neptunian injection, where it will be undertaking a journey of many years. So once again, within the next few minutes, hoping to have a meeting with Grateful Deadbeat. And ladies and gentlemen, this is Admiral Radish, PR Director for CASA and the PR Director for the Collaborative Space Agency CAPS. I'm very pleased to be joined here by our Launch Director for the Gale Weaver probe today, Grateful Deadbeat. Grateful Deadbeat, thank you for joining us. Now, a little bit about this mission. What was the inspiration for this mission, and why are we launching today? Excellent, excellent stuff. Now, this is quite a large rocket, larger than some of the previous that we've had to launch. What is helping us get through this launch today? Are there any changes to the launch vehicle, the location, the probe, that'll help us get to Neptune quickly? Excellent.
Enormously powerful, and it is going to be something we are going to be using quite frequently in place of the Mule, where we needed far more thrust to weight than the Mule can provide.
Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff. So, what has made the Gale Weaver a community probe up until this point so far?
Well, to me, it'll always be a community probe. And the reason why is because we have many stickers and decals, flags, pasted all over the side with the camera arm. And that's going to go with us to Neptune. So that was during our taxpayer forum about 6 days ago. We opened up the submissions and we started allowing people to send us in their flags. And the very first one was from a commenter, United C, and his flag became the official mission flag of this mission, the Gale Weaver. And you can see it there on the flagpole.
Now we like this because the maritime theme, got the anchor, the shield, it's blue. It really adds to the aesthetic of heading to Neptune, named after the god of the sea, and all of its moons, which are named after gods, goddesses, and mythology of the sea itself.
Excellent, excellent stuff. Now, we're getting a great shot of the rocket right there with the flag in front of it. What are your goals for the launch today?
So the main goal for the launch today is to get it into orbit, and we're going to try and be moving into a orbit that is fairly no different than the average between Earth's movement and the Earth's planar orbit and Neptune's plane. And so this will allow us to easily slip out of Earth's sphere of influence into our long trajectory to Neptune. And we're going to be moving into a parking orbit first, If we need to go around a second time before we can make sure our maneuver is good and sound, we'll do that.
And lastly, what should people expect inside the terminal count for today's launch?
So inside 10-minute mark, we always check our staging one last time. And we make sure the craft is all ready to go, that the launch clamps are all set to what they need to do. We'll be cycling through the camera views that we have here. And overall focusing on the mission itself.
Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff. Well, Grateful Deadbeat, good luck today on the launch. Thank you for joining us. And
thank you.
We look forward to seeing what comes of the next 20 minutes.
Absolutely, and thank you for everyone for being here.
Once again, this is Admiral Radish here, as we're now getting a live camera view of the Gale Weaver probe here from one of the cameras on the launch pad now. This probe, of course, as we just heard, going to Neptune, with the goal of intercepting the Neptunian atmosphere and, well, eventually meeting its fiery demise. As we approach 18 minutes to launch, the goal today will be to go into a parking orbit around Earth. As we just heard from Grateful Deadbeat, we'll be taking stock of the situation at that point, what our angle is relative to Neptune, what position we're in, what our apoapsis and periapsis are, as well as taking stock of what has happened with the launch complex, the new test of the Staghorn booster, and if there have been any anomalies during ascent. Currently, everything is looking go and green, and we'll be waiting for that final check later in the count. Once again, the Staghorn 6 booster undergoing its very first operational launch today. Now we're getting views here from inside of the engine bay. Another operational test for the launch today is the attempt to successfully recover the Staghorn 6 booster after lifting the second stage with the Gale Weaver probe attached. After lifting that, up and away from the launch camera. Now getting some views. Here we get an exterior view. And now, ladies and gentlemen, inside 13 minutes to launch, getting a view here, aero view around the launch pad now. There's Gale Weaver on the pad, ready for launch. We are still green, go for launch of the Gale Weaver Neptune probe. Here we go. Well, I think so. Let's try this. And now we're about 11.5 minutes from launch. One of the operational tests that's been discussed over the course of the new video release today, as well as over the past couple live streams, is the live camera view craft. Here we see what is a live camera view of Gale Weaver on the pad. This view coming from a separate streamer-controlled craft located on the runway down in Guam right now. So you can see right now actually a live camera view from the camera craft sitting waiting for launch. Great stuff. Us getting now, once again, that live view. We're now approaching 10 minutes to launch, T-minus 10 minutes to launch of the Gale Weaver craft. And if you're just joining us, this probe destined for collision with Neptune's atmosphere. If you are looking for information on any of our other missions, you can find a mission calendar, pictures, rules, and general information about the server located at KerbالRealTime.com. Now within 10 minutes to launch, we're getting our final staging check from the flight director. This precedes our final go, no-go poll, which will take place at roughly T-minus 5 minutes. The purpose of this staging check is, of course, to confirm that all of the components are operating correctly, configured for a successful ascent, as well as preparations for the test of booster recovery, which will be taking place on today's flight, the first recovery test of the Staghorn 6 in an operational flight configuration.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your flight director, Grateful Deadbeat. Staging check is successful, and we are go for final launch.
And if you've just heard that final call from the launch director at T-minus 8 minutes now, we are go for launch. I repeat, we are go for launch Still targeting the final launch time of 23:55 UTC from Guam. Current plan is to immediately intercept a Neptunian orbit. We'll sit in the parking orbit for some time and then plan a further burn for the trans-Neptunian injection. Me as well. Once again, looking here, now about T minus 6 minutes and 15 seconds. Looking now at the camera view of the booster on the pad, now from a distance. We can see there the live view of the Gale Weaver, this being taken from the camera vessel. And now, as we fade back to the launch pad views, we can see at the same time the craft located there on the pad. Now, if you take a look here, T-minus 5 minutes, 20 seconds to launch, we're getting live split-screen views of Gale Weaver on the pad. You can see from the left side there, the Gale Weaver from the camera vessel. That's being controlled, of course, by the streamer there on the launch pad. And then on the right side, we have the launch pad cameras. Now we're getting a great view of the engine section. Of course, this vessel destined for Neptune. The next major milestone we're waiting for is T-minus 60 seconds, which is where we'll be inside the terminal count, and we would anticipate the entire launch is being taken to automated mode. The last seconds of the countdown are, of course, handled by the staging order that was placed and double-checked by Grateful Deadbeat just a few minutes ago, at which point, once it clears the tower, he will be piloting the craft to its parking orbit in low Earth. We're coming up on T-minus 3 minutes to launch. T-minus 3 minutes to launch. You can now see that confirmation of positive control. Grateful Deadbeat having control of Gale Weaver. can also see the craft now sitting on the pad, still approaching that terminal count. From the launch director, we have go. From the camera and the streamer side, we have a go. Here from the public relations and the streaming side, we also have a go. Currently tracking no issues inside 2.5 minutes to launch. The goal, once the vessel clears the pad, that full camera view will be going back to the onboard camera views as well as the aerial views of Grateful Deadbeat, live piloting. But for now, we're tracking the streamer on the left side and the live launchpad camera views on the right side. Now inside 1 minute and 45 seconds to launch. If you are one of the community members, our loving taxpayers who contributed to this mission, these last 90 seconds are for you. We appreciate you sending in your emblems, stickers, flags, messages, as well as words of support. This is just the beginning of a very long journey for Gale Weaver, and it is thanks to you all that it is possible. Now T-minus 60 seconds. We're seeing those final orbital checks from the mission controllers. Well inside the terminal count. The current clock deviation looks like plus or minus about 4 seconds. So we're now inside T-minus 30 seconds to launch. Eight, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And liftoff, we have liftoff. As the Gale Weaver leaves the pad, we are still getting live views. Now we're seeing here as we approach T plus 1 minute into launch, Gale Weaver is ascending through the cloud layer, beginning a long journey to Neptune with the symbols of our community aboard. Now approaching T plus 2 minutes into launch. We're We're getting close to halfway through that first stage burn, the Staghorn 6. Now going almost 1,000 meters per second as it carries Gale Weaver and the second stage up to its low Earth orbit. Currently the vessel being piloted by Grateful Deadbeat. Now just getting some great views there of the booster as it ascends. In order to maintain the correct amount of G-force, you can see the flight controllers disabling 2 of those engines, going down to just 4 now, 4 Mastodons. Still well above a 2.0 thrust to weight. You can also see we're looking at about just over a minute left of burn time now as we approach 3.5 minutes into the mission. All reports right now is that the performance of the first stage, Staghorn 6, is nominal. And if we see now, there's been another pair of shutdowns as well, as we prepare for the very last phase here of the Staghorn 6 booster. There we see the mission flag and the CAPS flag on the side. Remember that there will be an operational test of the booster today in order to try and recover, as we see right there, main engine cutoff, and some celebration from the flight directors as we see a successful staging and second stage deployment. Now we'll be taking control of the first stage booster and getting it configured for re-entry as flight controller Grateful Deadbeat continues the ascent. Looking like we're drifting towards Apoapsis after separation. Getting a view there. And getting our first view of all of the different decals and stickers and everything aboard Gale Weaver today as it ascends. Seeing the orbital burn now increasing. That second stage in the process of carrying the probe to its parking orbit in low Earth orbit. Now 8 minutes into launch, you can see we're rapidly approaching our parking orbit, or at least the initial phase of our parking orbit. Here is that second stage. Continues to lift the probe up above the Earth's atmosphere. That is the Gale Weaver probe we're looking at there on the top. And we do have confirmation now as well that the Staghorn 6 booster is descending through 300,000 meters at this point, preparing for re-entry. Get a quick live view there of the Staghorn as it turns for positioning into re-entry. And now I look back again at Gale Weaver. Still on top of that second stage. There we can see the nuclear transfer stage, radiators, and the probe itself to the right there. As we look at the sort of final positioning. Staghorn 6 now coming down through 250,000 meters. Getting nice views back and forth of the two different craft maneuvering separately. There's the Staghorn. And we see the air brakes coming out on the Staghorn. Meanwhile, there on Gale Weaver, seeing some orbital maneuvering. So things we're tracking right now, as we look at this final maneuvering, we're going to go ahead and change back to now. Staghorn 6, which is preparing for re-entry interface. Just about to hit the atmosphere now. The final entry speed, 4,685 meters per second at interface. Once again, this is an experimental re-entry test, an operational test of the Staghorn booster, which underwent its first launch now 12 minutes ago, carrying the Gale Weaver probe. We're just about to, looks like we've just hit deceleration, 4,403, 4,404 meters per second approximately, as we hit the deceleration phase. It does appear we have a successful hypersonic entry. Looking now as we hit the Final deceleration still about 20 kilometers up. We do have communication with the vessel. All 6 engines still intact. Up next, waiting for parachute deployment, simultaneously waiting for maneuvering to a parking orbit for the Gale Weaver probe. Ooh. Let's see. Currently coming through. 10,000 meters, preparing for parachute deploy now on the Staghorn 6. And now we're seeing a parachute deploy. That is parachute deploy at about 14 minutes and 20 seconds after launch. We see the aero brakes now going in as we wait for a final splashdown confirmation on the Staghorn 6, waiting for 6 good mains. With that, it looks like we do have successful deploy of the main parachutes here on the Staghorn 6. We're going to go into the final safing process. So you can see there on the screen now the final touchdown velocity about 6.3 meters per second. And with that, as the final 2 parachutes lay the nose down into the ocean, I can confirm successful launch and recovery of the first operational test of the Staghorn 6. Many kudos, of course, to the CAPS team and Grateful Deadbeat for the launch of the booster today. Here's our final splashdown location now on the screen. Well in the depths of the Pacific Ocean. As we switch now back to Grateful Deadbeat, currently maneuver planning, as we declare the Staghorn 6's first operational test a success.
I'm very happy to hear that. This is its first test with anything aboard, and it looked like it performed exactly as it should have.
Currently waiting on the final statistics for the recovery of the Staghorn 6. The recovery amount was 475,000 funds. If you're just joining us, we've had a very successful mission so far. Launch approximately 19 minutes ago at 23:55 UTC from Guam, piloted by Grateful Deadbeat. A successful test of the Launchpad camera, the split screen streaming, the Staghorn 6 booster, including launch, second stage deployment, and recovery. Currently, the Gale Weaver probe and its second stage are in orbit, and we are seeing live views of the maneuver planning for its intercept to Neptune. All of the emblems and flags and stickers aboard, and we are assessing the recovery and launchpad state back in Guam. Now we're seeing the deployed solar panels and antenna on the Gale Weaver probe. Watching that live right now. Now as we get a live view here from the camera craft, we can see here now that the rocket has left Guam. We're getting a live view here from the camera vessel, still sitting on the runway down in Guam. Hard to believe that just 22 minutes ago, Gale Weaver, which is preparing for its Neptune injection. We just saw the live maneuver planning from Launch Director Grateful Deadbeat a few minutes ago. Hard to believe that just 22 minutes ago it was sitting there, steady on the pad. Once again, live views now from the leftover launch pad waiting in Guam, where Gale Weaver left from just a few minutes ago. Looking back now, we can see the path is intercepting Neptune, getting those final adjustments. Remember, the burn we make today is not the final decision on the mission profile. We can always adjust within reason around Neptune, potentially targeting other bodies or a different position in the atmosphere. We'll be accounting for things like deep space network availability, position in relation to Earth, all things we have to account for in order to make sure that those last moments are captured and available for us to receive as much data as possible. Alongside the decals that you're seeing on the vessel today, we've also placed some science experiments for the hopes that with the much larger antenna, the very small science packets, we may be able to even get, in the limited time available to us, some data back from the atmosphere of Neptune, which in the scope of our server would be a tremendous scientific finding. We're seeing now the deploy of the camera arm. Hopefully going to get some first views from the selfie stick here shortly. And how about that? Now we're getting live side-by-side views of the Gale Weaver vessel now orbiting Earth, and the last views from the launch pad there. Now just 25 minutes ago, the simultaneous view of where it took off from and where it is now. Just great to see. Alongside all of those great pictures there, we've got logos and stickers. We see CASA and SPES proudly positioned there. Just a great view right now. Just a great view. Once again, a great shout out to anyone who's following along with the mission today. All of the stickers and everything you're seeing here was contributed by our community. You can join our community here. KerbalRealtime.com will give you links to our mission calendar, a map of the current images, a map of all the current vessels, as well as the ability to join our Discord via the link there. I strongly recommend you come and follow along to see what happens as we make course corrections and mission changes here to the Gale Weaver probe. And in the upcoming months, there will be decisions to make about final approach angle, where we plan to enter the atmosphere and how deep. We're seeing some notes from Flight Director Grateful Deadbeat that we may enter the Triton atmosphere depending on our available fuel and the positioning. So all still to be determined. So I strongly recommend you come and join us. KerbalRealtime.com. It looks like the vessel is orienting now in preparation for the maneuver burn. We still have a good 20 plus minutes until the maneuver burn. And remember, the goal is to keep it within as close to a Neptunian injection as possible. Getting a view of the sun there in the background now. Now we're seeing some lateral rotation, testing the maneuvering capabilities of the craft. Looking at that altimeter go up, just crossing 700,000 meters. So we're well past now, double the apoapsis, that maximum height that the Staghorn 6 got to today. If you were not here earlier, the Staghorn 6 reusable booster successfully completing both the takeoff and landing of its first operational orbital flight today, splashing down in the Pacific Ocean and being successfully recovered for more than half of the total upfront mission cost, which is the core tenet of reusability here for CAPS. As we cross 30 minutes since launch now, just 30 minutes, 700,000 meters, and live views there from Gale Weaver as it continues to orbit Earth in preparation for its trans-Neptunian injection in about 20 minutes. Can see a little bit of camera adjustment going on now live from the mission controllers as they work to get everything lined up. Some notable ones there, of course. In the top left corner, you can see the original CASA logo. This is from a number of years ago, back before the real solar system sized server. Next to that, you can see, of course, the current CASA logo, both designed by Grateful Deadbeat, along with the SPES logo. That'll be on the right side of that camera piston you're seeing right there. Bingus, Deadbolt, some Acme logos, for example, hand-drawn Neptunian trident. All of these are emblems that were submitted by our community members, and so if you want to participate in future missions, send in stickers, flags, things that you would want to be included on these craft, please do join us. We look forward to seeing what you could include. I also see now there's a Kilroy right there coming off the bottom of the foil. So shout out to all of our taxpayers who have joined along with this mission so far. We appreciate you, and we appreciate you joining us today. Now 34 minutes and 20 seconds since launch. And if you're still watching, we'll be doing a live question and answer session about the server, the probe today, the launch, the Staghorn 6, how we operate any of the space agencies. We'll be holding that question and answer session here at T plus 40 minutes. So please start sending along your questions, any information you might want to know. Be doing that live question and answer, so feel free to submit those wherever, and we look forward to taking them. Looking here, some more camera adjustment. I will say this asymmetrical view right here of the Gale Weaver probe looks great. You can see it there on the MTM mounted core. Some additional peripheral tanks off to the side. We have the antenna up top. And now we're getting a top-down view of the different logos. And of course the mission flag right there, front and center, that blue anchor flag representing the relationship between Gale Weaver and Neptune as the god of the seas. That flag also submitted by one of our community members. You may have seen that on the flagpole earlier. It's one of the reasons why we love our community so much. And once again, we'll be running a question and answer session here shortly, so please send those questions in. Serious, goofy, anecdotal, whatever you've got, send those in. We'll take those via YouTube chat, Twitch chat, or Discord. And ladies and gentlemen, now as we approach 41 minutes since launch, we're getting live views of Gale Weaver, now heading into the dark side of Earth for its first night in space. I'm very pleased to be joined once again by our launch director for today, who has just overseen the successful ascent of Gale Weaver into its low Earth orbit, Grateful Deadbeat. Deadbeat, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely, thank you for having me once again. This has been a very exciting flight. Everything went off without a hitch, and we are currently 11 minutes away from our first burn.
Excellent stuff. So first things first, as we're getting a live view of the launch pad, now empty, down in Guam, how do you feel ascent went today?
Ascent went incredibly well, I feel. It was a little bit slower than I might have expected, but this is the first time launching the Staghorn with an actual full payload, so the ascent time was kind of a toss-up for us. We didn't know how that was going to go, and overall, I'd say it went in a pretty smooth fashion.
Excellent. And the Staghorn 6, a booster that you helped design, was recovered successfully. Some people were surprised by the engine shutdown procedure. What is the logic behind that process?
So when it's sitting on the launch pad, fully fueled at sea level, it has the absolute lowest thrust to weight that it's going to have, and it needs all 6 of those engines to be able to push past the first layer of the atmosphere that is the thickest. But once we get past that, it has far too much thrust to weight than we need, and throttling down is a little bit too has a bit too many variables for us when we're actually taking a craft up. So shutting off the engines in pairs through an action group is something we found that has worked very well in testing to keep it from going into its partial plasma blackout and potentially harming Kerbals with
And how do you think that
G-force.
worked today?
I think that worked amazing, and another benefit of this is that when you slowly shut down engines, you actually gain more delta V because you're burning up less
You're
fuel.
extending the usage of that delta V up into the higher atmosphere where it is more efficient, less drag. So yeah.
Exactly.
One obvious question, it seems, though, but we get from the chat a lot. Are we planning on spending years on this mission?
Oh, absolutely. One thing I've been saying lately is the years are going to pass whether we do this or not. Might as well toss something out while we can. It's not like in 2017, the scientists for Europa Clip are saying, no, we're not going to send this thing. It's going to take 11 years. Why even bother? No, they did it. And we're still waiting. Everybody should be waiting too. Europa Clipper in, I think, 2028.
We're so close at this point. So to those asking, yes, this
so
will
close.
take actual years, which is why we've launched it now. So that way we don't have to wait any longer. The timer starts today. So once...
Not only that, but we sent it at the primary point in the
We
Neptune
basically conceived, designed, tested, and launched within the minimum viable window in order to intercept Neptune. We just happened to be at a perfect location in order to do it. So once you were above the atmosphere, second stage detaches, and Gale Weaver is in space. Maybe not in orbit yet, but in space. How were you feeling?
Oh, it was wonderful feeling to actually get something away from the booster is wonderful, because to me the booster is not even part of the craft. It is the second craft helping this one. That is why we named the first one the Mule. It is because it is the thing that carries our actual mission into space. And as soon as we saw those fireworks, meaning that the third pair of engines shut down, I knew that this mission had been just as we wanted it.
And Gale Weaver, what's the plan? How far are we from maneuver? What's the plan for the rest of today?
Okay, so in 7 minutes and 9 seconds, we are going to be starting before that, actually, we're going to be starting our burn. And that's going to be burning off the rest of the fuel in this, I want to say, second stage here. And that's 2,940 meters per second. And we are going to use up the rest of that to push ourselves just barely before leaving the escape velocity of Earth. And then downrange as we head on, in about 1 hour and 8 minutes, we will be making the trans-Neptunian injection
So we're
burn,
doing a two-phase.
which will be absolutely massive. I will be clear, this burn with these two engines is probably going to take us, I want to say, about 30 hours.
Wow.
So we're going to be starting it as soon as we're in the right trajectory, but as soon as we hit escape velocity, the craft is moving in a more or less straight line as possible, and you can just focus on pointing prograde and really letting loose with everything we have until we're basically a bullet heading. A bullet
Excellent
heading
stuff.
for Neptune.
And after the burn, we'll have more information, obviously, later tonight as we get finished with the initial burns, and then tomorrow and the following day as we get the final corrections in place. What do you foresee the final mission plan will be for Gale Weaver? Do you think we're going to go with the Neptunian atmospheric entry? Do you think we're going to try and skim it to maximize time? I know that there's a goal to try and get some science collection back, which I'm certain we'll be testing along the way in order to understand what that window is, right? What do you want to do with the mission?
Well, that is still kind of up in the air. The idea that it is going to meet its fiery demise in the Neptunian system is a guarantee. We are not flying by, we are not capturing. This is a mission to smack something as hard as we can. So that brings it down to, do we want to hit Neptune? Or do we want to, now that I'm thinking about it, we could also go to Triton, which is the largest moon of Neptune, and actually has a thin atmosphere of its own. And it isn't known if there's enough for this thing to burn up in the atmosphere or if we'd strike the surface. But I feel like there's only one way to find out, and this is the opportunity. The next Neptune launch window comes in June of next year.
And we may be following it up.
So,
excellent
yeah.
stuff.
But one thing is, theoretically, if this were the real world, this would only be the second mission ever to reach Neptune. Voyager 2 in 1982 was the first thing we ever got to Neptune. We have not sent anything since.
I'm sitting here looking at the mission chart on my wall, and I can confirm number 28. Voyager was the only craft to visit Neptune. That is correct. Well, Deadbeat, do you have, before we turn to questions, we're approaching now both the burn time and 50 minutes since launch. Do you have any last thoughts before we turn to the public questions about the mission today?
Good on everybody for these flags. That was my absolute favorite thing, to be inundated on the Discord with everybody's decals, flags, stickers. Thank you everybody for making this thing look like a college town hatchback.
Yes, and
I
myself
absolutely
included.
love it.
I also contributed. So thanks everybody for contributing both to the stickers, the emblems, the flags, the mission flag, the naming suggestion, the name Gale Weaver itself. The name Gale Weaver itself was also a community suggestion, crowdsourced from the community. So it's been great to see everybody participating. And I think with that, it's time to turn to the public questions. First up, will commercial payloads be more of a thing in the future?
I hope so. I think that would be a very interesting thing, especially to the space station. Commercial payloads.
One of the
to
things
space
we're
station.
still determining is how best to engage with the community, right? one of the things that Deadbeat and I have discussed is we would like for anything we do with the stream to definitely contribute to charity in some way, whether or not we let people name Kerbals in the Kerbal draft that's coming up on July 1st, as is written in the Spaceonomicon. Blessed be Jeb the Fourth Ghost, greatest of all Kerbals. Whether or not we, let people contract for Kerbals to go specific places or engage with the community through commercial contracts, integrate with the public server we're working on in some way. There's a lot of options there, but that is definitely a potential commercial payloads in the future. Looking here.
And right now you can see that I am retracting the camera boom. It is not a selfie stick. This is a scientific piece of equipment called the camera boom.
Yes, we do. We see the...
And we have to stow it before we start our burn, or else things are just slightly off weight, and we don't want to stress any of our robotic parts more than they were tested to be stressed.
Tucking away. Excellent. Now we're within...
We're about to begin our burn in 20 seconds.
The burn period now.
Go ahead, ask away.
As we begin the burn, what methods do you use to plan missions so that you can ensure they go smoothly and don't waste huge amounts of time to an accident/oversight?
Now that's a great question. We have several resources on KerbalRealtime.com, and they can calculate overpasses. It can calculate when things are going to be where. That's actually what we use to view things via time warp, because you can have a time warp view on the website itself.
You can see we're doing the injection burn, or the first portion of the injection burn right now. Waiting for those adjustments to be made. As he was saying, we have a lot of tools. First off is we have the Spaceonomicon, right, which outlines what we believe probes and missions and vessels should contain. They don't always strictly adhere to it, more of guidelines than rules, but we do use the Spaceonomicon to help remember the most practical, basic items for the craft that we're building. Then we can use the website to determine overpasses, when launch sites will be under specific craft, the mission calendar. We've put in the transfer windows that we've been able to calculate for the different planets. So it's not perfect, but that lets us do sort of the mathematics side of the calculations. We have the Delta V map, which we've shown in the previous stream where we built Gale Weaver, the Delta V map that we use to determine how much fuel and energy all of the craft need. And then lastly, on the website, KerbalRealtime.com, KerbalRealtime.com, you can look at a vessel, time warp to a point in the future or in the past, and see where the vessel will be at a specific date and time. That lets us estimate, our projections for craft, sort of like a computer simulation, without needing to go and do it in the game. On top of that, perhaps most importantly, when things go wrong, we sit and have candid discussions about what went wrong in order to try and prevent them in the
yes.
future. The rules that...
All right,
look at that.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are officially done with our second stage burn. Second stage is depleted of fuel. We are sorry to say that it is now a piece of debris in Earth orbit that will be cataloged and shamed forever.
Fortunately, not too close of an orbit, but it's definitely there. We will have to add it to the list of shame for when we eventually build a junk scrapper to go and pick things up. So, question.
You wonder what we do in real time. We build
Do
junk
you expect
scrappers.
to still be streaming and conducting missions by 2030, or is that more of a hope? What keeps you motivated?
Oh, absolutely. So the thing about this server is, it is definitely not our first time doing this. We have done this with stock Kerbal before, with just the stock game and the smaller scale solar system that has. And we played for about 1 year and 5 months or so. and it was an absolute blast. In that scale, you're actually able to reach Duna, the analog for Mars, in only about 60 to 90 days, and the transfer window comes around maybe every 200 days. So we were able to do 2 runs of Duna missions. We did countless Eve missions, a high-speed Joule mission similar to our Kronos probe. But yeah, I absolutely still expect us to be doing this, and the server setup itself, I think, is going to hold up. And
I think people will say this, you know, the structure of Real Solar System definitely lends itself to a much longer run of gameplay, but also the infrastructure that Deadbeat and I have set up for this version is considerably more robust, right, than previous iterations. You know, we've sort of set a starting moment, which is the launch of the Kronos probe and the video that many people saw, as well as sort of a final moment for phase 1. I think we can all agree that what we decide to do after the Kronos probe, we may change mods, add mods, as we continue to do, even in real time. You know, we've recently added FreeIVA and rocket sounds enhancement at the community's request. So what we decide to do at that point will be at that point. But the goal right now is absolutely continue to make the server more robust. The backup system and the hosting and everything is set up to continue indefinitely right now. So we certainly plan to still be doing this in 2030. And this actually leans nicely into another short question, which is, are you running this with Dark Multiplayer or LunaMultiplayer? What happens when KSP crashes? So the answer is yes. We do run this on LunaMultiplayer. What do we do when it crashes? We have 5 different backups, essentially, at any point. 3 on the different computers, 1 on the server, and then 1 in a backup server, which is running every single day. So the worst we would ever lose is about 24 hours of progress, which, as you can see on a mission like this one, unless we lose today's progress, essentially means nothing, because it will be on the same trajectory for the next few years. But we do use LunaMultiplayer, and how do we keep it stable? I have the great privilege of being one of the developers of LunaMultiplayer, who helped contribute the fixes back to the public repository. So when something goes wrong, I sit down and work on the fixes, which hopefully become your public builds of LunaMultiplayer. We're currently working on version 23.0, I believe. No, 29.3, excuse me. The big fix. On to the next question for Mr. Deadbeat. Scroll back up here really quick. Are there any good opportunities for a Grand Tour type mission in the near future? What's your next big target now that Gale Weaver has begun its journey?
Oh man. I think the next big target that we're kind of aiming at is our Mars mission, which launches in 3 or 4 days. We're sending a deep space network package to Mars. It's going to be first moving into the solar altitude of Venus to pick up speed and then making its Martian injection burn from the sun. And that will be a whole process that will actually get it there 347 days from launch, which even if we wait for the proper Mars transit, it'll still take longer. So while it's going to use a lot of extra delta V, it's going to be worth it, because when we get to the actual transfer window for Mars, we're going to have a whole heap of communication there already for us.
Excellent stuff. I would agree. I think the Deep Space Network for Mars is almost certainly going to be our next big item. Just a quick adjustment to the timer on the screen really quick. Looks like it's...
Yep, and I am preparing to jettison the second stage.
Here we go.
We want to be...
Getting in the right orientation. While we prepare for that separation, will we have lunar settlements or any type of settlements on other planets? Are there any current plans to do so?
Settlements? I really don't think so. Maybe a base, more likely an operation camp, specifically on the moon of Deimos, but there is loose ideas for what we're going to be doing with our Kerbals when we send them to Mars, and yes, we are planning to send Kerbals to Mars this November.
Looking here, are there going to be significant...
And we have stage separation.
Looking here. Just waiting for confirmation. And we do see confirmation there, yep. Stage separation, we now see that nuclear engine is detached. Got both solar panels deployed, antenna deployed, radiators ready. They will be needed for that burn. Those radiators, that nuclear engine can get extremely hot. Are there going to be significant differences in protocols from the collaborative space station type of mission? Especially as you look towards further interplanetary travel.
Potentially. There is a rule about large objects being around the collaborative space station. That may change should we find a small enough asteroid, is what I always say.
I agree with that, absolutely. And, read the Space Anomicon. There are some rules about interstellar travel, ensuring that all Kerbals have enough to get back. So obviously if we're going to launch a Kerbal to, say, Venus or Mars, we would need to have a lot of contingency planning. There would certainly be a public forum, if not 2 public forums, to demonstrate the testing of the vessel, the booster, return stage, really to sort of outline the entire mission profile. It's not something that we would jump to, with the Kerbals, based on the rules of the draft and based on the history with Giuseppe Kermano, rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
We take Kerbal life very seriously, much like we take taxpayer funding very seriously. And it's something that we will consider to the utmost degree before we undertake a mission like that. Something much simpler than the collaborative space station. As we've shown now a number of times, we can be at the station in less than 20 minutes, depending on how accurate our launch timing is, which means there's a lot lower stakes in getting to and from the station when you can get there and back in less than 2 hours, essentially. It definitely has lower stakes. One of the other questions here from the Twitch chat, how long has this server iteration been running? Any deorbit missions planned?
We have been going for about 4 months now. I want to say early February?
Yes, February.
We started this?
Sounds about right. And as for deorbit missions, we do have the crew coming back, the Leo crew coming back very soon from the collaborative space station.
The current plan with the collaborative space station is we have a scientist, engineer, and pilot there right now. We are going to be taking home the pilot and scientist and replacing them with 2 scientists who will both be performing operations in the laboratory there. And then the scientist, sorry, but I'm spacing on his name right now, will be loaded up for the upcoming Polyphemus mission, which will be visiting a nearby asteroid that will be swinging by Earth in roughly about 3 weeks' time.
Polyphemus, that's another great mission for what our big targets right now are, to to get
yeah.
power generation and imagery on the surface, along with one of the camera booms, for example, would be a
camera boom, a large relay, and something to generate electricity so we can study this asteroid as it leaves from Earth. I think I calculated it out once. It doesn't come back for another 128 years.
We'll essentially be able to get dynamic views from the asteroid indefinitely if we can successfully achieve this intercept. So the Polyphemus mission, that's visiting asteroid PCP-666, which was a randomly generated asteroid. And we swear
to God that was random.
One of the only ones left from when we moved from RSS and Kerbal into Sol. It was generated in this strange orbital position, and now it will be doing a fairly low flyby. So we'll be doing a fairly aggressive intercept regime in order to try and get this probe attached to it, along with some crew members. So actual crew from crew samples from in space near the asteroid, and live camera views once we have that established and installed by the mission engineers. So Polyphemus coming up very soon. And then another question we see, how does the interactive map work? How does it work internally? Yeah, it's one of the pieces of software that we've worked on in order to, much like FastVesselChanger or the Discord bots, for example. It can parse the LunaMultiplayer files in real time as they're synced, however regularly I want it to, and it can actually turn the part list for each different vessel. As they get added, you can see different vessels being denoted. There must be a bug, because someone showed me with a rack of missiles earlier today on the website, which is, yeah, that's...
Oh, no, hold on. We need to talk about the missiles.
There weren't any missiles.
As the official whistleblower, no, there is officially missiles. CASA is developing and testing missiles, and it is becoming a problem. I witnessed a launch pad being destroyed myself.
Now,
surface-to-air missiles.
Now, I don't know what sort of skullduggery is afoot here. Sort of skullduggery.
No.
But
your skullduggery.
We'll go ahead and limit
maybe
the non-existent missile testing to White Sands for the time being.
Yes. That was the previous agreement, that should any of that subject matter be tested, it be done at the White Sands missile testing facility.
But once again, the Hit It 4S,
where we do have a launch site,
is just a collection of small sounding rockets.
All right, now, but to be honest, if you could get some of those things like to the space station, that's where we could start our junk cleanup program.
It's not a bad idea.
Just start nuking little tiny pieces of solar panel debris.
It's a good idea.
But wouldn't that create more?
I think once they get to the smallest part, no, but something for us to test. Question.
Yeah.
So to finish the last point, how does the interactive map work? So yes, once it parses the vessel parts and timestamps and all of the body data from the saves that we work on and the server, it calculates all of the positions and projections and displays them as 3D models. So yeah, it's a custom piece of scripting that we put together, custom piece of software, and it does all of the Unity object parsing, and I add in custom definitions for mods as we add them to the server. You'll still see some bugs. You know, I don't have all of the B9 part switcher options for launch pads in there, for example, yet. And there's a couple issues with shrouds on engines when they're stacked in the stack, shrouded versus unshrouded. But still, all a work in progress, and it will continue to get better as time goes on.
Now I'm looking here, and we have roughly about 4.5 minutes until sunrise, and then 28 minutes until we're going to start our burn. That seems to be roughly about the right trajectory for us to start doing this.
That looks great.
It doesn't need to be absolutely spot on for these really slow maneuvers, because we can adjust much further down the road.
We can adjust hours into the burn even. We want to try and be as accurate on the kickoff in order to minimize delta V losses. But when you're burning for hours, if you realize there's an error 2 hours in, it's not quite as deathly a blow as if the burn only lasts 8 seconds. So this looks great. Looking here, what are the scientific goals for the Gale Weaver? What kind of instruments does it have on board? Will it find aliens? No aliens, unfortunately. Extremely unlikely.
Nope, no aliens. This is a gas giant, even more technical. It is an ice giant.
Very unlikely.
All we're bringing is our thermometer and our barometer.
Those.
Mostly to save on weight.
Trying to get at least one or both of those to fire in quick succession for transmission as we approach.
Now, in the taxpayer forum, we did note that we were not going to put a relay on this. I did put a teeny tiny relay antenna. It is, I feel, not a great idea to send something out this far without some sort of relay communication.
Or any form of backup.
So it can talk to other things. Yeah. It's not going to be exactly in the same area as Pluto, but
yes,
it could help. If you look here, we're going to be meeting Saturn right here with the Valorant probe. We're going to be meeting Pluto roughly about where it is with the Kronos probe. And now the Gale Weaver probe should be on its way to Neptune soon, leaving us only with Uranus and Jupiter for the outer planets. I know, haha, Uranus, urine.
Another question. What are you guys willing to investigate the strange hexagon on Saturn? Some people say that it's the followers of the Kraken. Others, like me, say it's the followers of the Kraken.
I do think it's the followers of the Kraken, and as followers of the Kraken, we will be visiting the hexagon with the Valorant probe if we can.
We do want to investigate to make sure that we, as followers of the Kraken, are not missing any other followers of the Kraken.
Now, if you haven't caught up anything on the Valorant probe, it is currently on its way. It is already on its course to be passing by Saturn. There's an adjustment burn in roughly about 20 days, and then it will be on its way to actually pass by the moon of... oh, which one is that? Titan. We're going to use Titan to capture intercept into Saturn, and this will be our first probe heading into the outer planets that actually stays there and is not a flyby.
So we'll be getting permanent views from Polyphemus, eventually permanent views from Saturn. We've just tested the first version of the camera vessel today, which will be used to give us views of other launches in the future. There is the potential for us to design and configure multiple camera craft per launch. The hope is, of course, to give you all a more comprehensive view of these vessels as they take off. A question from the chat. What's the expected delivery timeline for the next major release of LMP? I've had to migrate over to DMP for issues with physics times as well as docking ports getting frozen. Well, one thing you'll be pleased to know, and I know Deadbeat is pleased to know this as well, we do not have docking port issues anymore on our server. We have patched almost all of them out as of the latest version. A 29.2 version was just released not that long ago, a couple days, maybe a week ago at this. So we'll be using that version for a while, but 29.3 is what we're targeting for all of those fixes that I've worked on, for example. And any of the items that you see working here in the server should be targeted in the 29.3 release. We won't see any new features currently in version 30. We're calling that the bigger fix for right now. And then by version number 31, we'll be implementing, hopefully, new features. People have wanted stuff like groups, to have groups enabled, individual funding per player, per person, all stuff we're looking at. I think the stuff that we use here
Oh, individual
Yes,
funding would
because
be
then we could
amazing.
split SPES
Between
and
you and
CASA,
I,
for
yes.
example, and then have a separate group we could join, have a group in the background for CAPS, so when you're logged into that, you're spending the CAPS funding, right? So there's a whole bunch of things we can do, depending on how we want to keep building it out. The goal right now is stability, like you're talking about, docking port fixes, time warp fixes, physics fixes. So what you see, like the launch that you saw happen in real time through the camera, that is an example of what the new fixed version is capable of, right? I can watch him take off. It's not perfect yet, but watch him take off in real time, take the booster from him, land it. Have we had any docking, undocking bugs since that one we fixed on the moon station? Yeah, so
No, we have not.
We do quite a bit of docking, undocking here in this server. So the goal is to have all those fixed in 29.3. I put together the release notes for it, the 9 sort of major code patches we have to get synced in for everything to work, and then we have to do a big old round of testing. So it's going to be a couple weeks, at least a couple weeks. Next question. We'll do just a few more. Is it true that followers of the Kraken control the world and its governments? Are they mentioned in the zip files?
The JEB files have nothing to do with the followers of the Kraken. In fact, we are actually fighting those who are amongst the JEB files. See, we are responsible for the Werner files. If you go into the game coding and find the sound bites, you will hear the Werner Kerman files, and I suggest you hear them for yourself.
Files.
They will open your eyes. Listen to the Werner Kerman files. It will open your eyes.
Is this stock size RSS? Because I assume normal RSS wouldn't take 2 years. No, this is not stock size RSS. This is real scale solar system. We're using the Sol mod at real scale. The reason it only takes a couple years is because we're using an insane amount of delta V, and we're flying by it. We're essentially speeding past it as fast as possible, and then
we're coming at it 90 degrees to its movement around the sun. So if that tells you anything,
extremely fast. And little side question on, will there be any desync fixes for Rendezvous for LunaMultiplayer? Yes, we already have those in this server, for example. There's still a couple little ones. I saw one vessel jump like maybe 20 meters forward when we entered the physics range on the stream here a week or two ago. But other than that, it's much, much better. No random skittering and jumping and any of that, so much more pleasant to play with, I would say. What's the best way to get involved with the community and or support the program? Join our Discord.
Well, mostly you can join the Discord, do all the algorithm things. We have a personal rule that we will never say the please L and S
we're not
word.
going to do that on this channel.
We're not those kind of people.
But if
we're
you do want to come join
the
the Discord, right, we try to have real fun. Real fun with the whole system. We post headlines every day, every couple of days, that denote stuff that's going on in the world, in the server. We try to poke some fun at what we're doing in the background when it's not on stream, for example. Like the UFO rotor test we did a week and a half ago that made it to 3,000 meters per second on propellers. Stuff like that, We'd like to get people looped in and come and watch the streams. We'll plan on, once the server gets a little more settled in, doing some more casual streams, maybe from the lobby channel, for example. But coming and hanging out in the Discord is definitely number one. And then, anything you can do to pump the algorithm, or if you're involved in any other Kerbal spaces, Kerbal communities, just share it. Just share the concept. We found that people really like the idea as soon as they hear about it. Just getting them to hear about it in the first place is the main goal. So definitely come join our Discord, look at our website, and please the algorithm. And what's our timer at now? until our node? 35 minutes?
35 minutes. We're officially in sunlight now, but we're going to start that burn a little while before that. I can check now. I want to say roughly about here in 20 minutes. So we're going to call it the node
Perfect.
in 15-minute mark.
So that puts us at about node in, it's about 20 minutes from now. So about T plus 1 hour and 40 minutes is about what we're looking at for the beginning of the trans-Neptunian injection burn. The more we sit here and look at it, the more impressive I just think the whole thing really feels when you consider that not that long ago at all, we were sitting on the launch pad, and I believe here actually, I may be able to even get us really quick. I can. A view of the launch pad, still there. The camera is still looking at it. Now, an hour and 22 minutes ago, the Gale Weaver probe that you just saw floating in space took off from that launch pad on its way towards Neptune. So that there in Guam, we took off at 23:55 UTC on May 31st, plus or minus 4 seconds. Looks to be about the approximation today. And that does match the pre-launch estimation we had as well, which is great to see. And now that vessel departing Earth, getting ready to start its trans-Neptunian injection burn. First stage, Staghorn 6 booster, in its first operational test flight, was recovered. The second stage completed its entire burn. It is in an extremely elliptical garbage orbit, a debris orbit, with a more than 1 million meter periapsis, so it should be well above any concern for the active stations or orbital shells. The final stage, that transfer stage and the probe itself, now on their way in the next few minutes here, just a few minutes in fact, to starting their burn. We're targeting that here in about 18 minutes or so. And the launch pad in good condition. Everything looking very good. Now, almost an hour and a half since launch. Beginning a multi-year mission to collide with the atmosphere of Neptune, the emblems and stickers of our community aboard, as we take one last look now at the launch pad as we get prepared to recover the launch pad camera. Now we're fading back to a live view of the Gale Weaver probe. You can see here a side, getting a side view of the Gale Weaver. All of the stickers and emblems on board. A couple more of those. We can see the paw print. We see the Taxpayers sticker. You wouldn't deorbit a Kerbal. The Get Lost up there on top. We can see a Kim Sok-jin sticker.
Don't you have a Kerbal heart? Ash Jeb. We've got the Acme, a Kilroy. Let's see if we can't zoom in on what this says. Yet another over a year real-time KSP mission, Neptune edition. Thank you for that one. I love that.
And we were sent another one that did not quite make it on in the timeline, but we will be keeping it very near and dear to our hearts. It looks like.
Oh yes, I guarantee you we're going to be doing this again for Jupiter. Or even Uranus.
CASA/SPES. Please no placing stickers on critical flight hardware. Thank you. Sincerely, Satellite Development Team.
No.
We'll have to stick this one on the crude ones in the future.
I actually do think we might have a little module for the very first moon landing, and we might stick some stickers on that.
I'm fully on
From you
board.
guys.
More stickers, absolutely. Anytime, any place, anywhere. Anything to bring you all into the loop. We love having you all around. So, within about 16, 15 minutes now. Yep, looking like we're within about 15 minutes. Can confirm now from Mission Control that the launchpad camera has been recovered, and that we will be recovering the launchpad framework back down the crawlerway here very shortly. That will bring now an hour and a half since launch the Guam launch site back online. If you're just joining, a little bit after launch, it's been about 90 minutes since we launched from Guam, the Gale Weaver probe, on top of the Staghorn 6 booster. The booster successfully recovered in the Pacific Ocean. The Gale Weaver probe now preparing for its trans-Neptunian injection burn. And Deadbeat, just to make sure I'm correct, this will be a two-part burn. There's both a liquid fuel nuclear stage and an ion stage.
That is absolutely correct. So, first of all, this first stage has much more thrust to weight, if you can even call that. It has 0.3 thrust to weight. And this will push it all the way out of Earth's sphere of influence and get us relatively into that trajectory that we want to be going in. After that, it's the long burn with the xenon, baby, which this 8 hour and 4 minute mark is probably only if we have enough electrical generation and we don't have to thruster limit the Dawn engine. How do you guys find the motivation for these extra long projects? I can barely play for a month. Well, that's a good question. I've been playing this since it was in beta. Man, I've been playing Kerbal probably more than any other video game. I don't think I've ever been able to shake it as something I want to play. It always kind of comes back in rounds, and the thing about Kerbal Real-Time, if I don't want to play for 2 months, it's gonna be fine, because this isn't gonna be there until a very specific point, and if I just have to poke my head in on one day,
yeah,
I like
and
that.
to be clear, the consequences here are very small if we forget to do something, for example. If I forget to...
And yes, this
real
is
size,
RSS.
Scale, real solar system. We use Soul by Ballistic Fox, the Soul mod. If you've not used it, please absolutely go and get a copy of it. It is a dream compared to previous versions of Real Solar System. We use it exclusively at this point. Ballistic Fox, love them. So, as to the motivation for these long-term projects, yeah, if we forget to do something, if we forget to make a maneuver, unless it's a super mission-critical maneuver, at which point we're probably reminding each other about it, or we'll, have one of the other ones cover it. If I forget to do a geosynchronous satellite maneuver, I can do it, I can make 90% of the maneuver, get it within margin of error, and then really not worry about it.
Nope.
I can go correct it any day.
One thing I do note is that the more important missions that we work on, I will actually put a calendar reminder in my phone. And it'll buzz me in the morning, and it'll buzz me like an hour before it needs to happen, that, hey, you need to be capturing those Kerbals at the moon.
And I've
this
100%.
time. Otherwise, sometimes,
Yeah, I've
you
100%
forget.
remoted into my computer from a distance to make sure things are happening correctly here on the server and operating. So, and yeah, with the scale.
Another fun anecdote. In our last test of this, or not test, but our playthrough of real-time Kerbal in stock solar system, the Kerbin system, we did indeed have a day where we kind of forgot about our probe. And I want to say it was the Goose probe, and it was heading for No, it wasn't the Goose probe. It was something else. It was headed for Eve, and it needed to be caught after it skimmed the atmosphere. But we both together went camping. And nobody was around for any of that to happen, so RIP that probe. After 40 days, 40 days, it just burnt up in Eve.
Yeah, that 100% did happen.
And
I remember that now that you say it.
That transfer window did not happen. That transfer window went to waste.
So we're attempting to avoid that here. One of the reasons why the infrastructure is so much more robust on this version, the backups, the better versions of LunaMultiplayer, just the improvements to LunaMultiplayer alone make this worth it. And then Scholar Moth. We're going to wait IRL years for those missions to arrive. Yes, you're 100% correct. If you look at our website, KerbalRealtime.com, and you click on the calendar, you can actually see in real time how we have the missions spaced out. You can see the transfer windows, the planetary transfer windows for Earth to those different planets. We'll have to figure out how to do it in reverse at some point in the future for when we actually have people at other planets.
Comparatively, we are not just waiting for these, we are also waiting for actual real space missions like Europa Clipper, Juice, the Lucy probe. You all should be keeping up on those too, because those are far more cool than what we're doing here.
Maybe someday NASA will want to engage with us to do some
In 2028, the Lucy probe is currently on its way to checking out the Trojan moons of Jupiter, which will reveal some cool science about the formation of our solar system in general.
The asteroids of Jupiter that have been balancing around its Lagrange point in front of it.
Yeah, it's stuck in the Lagrange
point.
points.
In its orbit, just being pushed along in space.
Not only that, but the Lucy probe is going to be the first ever probe. After 2028, it's going to fall back and make another gravity assist off of Earth to go to the L2, or is it L4? The L4 Lagrange points, and see those asteroids. And all told, it is planned to have 11 encounters with asteroids along its way.
Crazy.
That's insane to me.
You know, our missions, we've done some pretty cool. You did that twin flyby maneuver, right, Deadbeat? So we do have some very cool maneuvers queued up and planned, but in reality, if we had a fraction of the funding that NASA had, we should be running something so complex and complicated that it wouldn't even be here on YouTube. So major kudos to all the real missions and the real NASA scientists who are out there chugging away on the real-time work. They got to do the same thing we do. And ESA. CSA.
European
JAXA.
European Space Agency working for... Sorry, Bezos. That was fun to watch.
Note today, we did not have a static fire anomaly. We did do a static fire of this booster before we launched it. So, no issues there. Didn't stream that, of course. But yes,
everything gets tested.
Everything gets tested.
Like, you really have to understand, in real time, we do kind of have to test everything as if we only have one shot, because we kind of do only have one shot. This was the optimal time to launch for Neptune until roughly about a year and 14 days.
We will be waiting a long time or spending a lot more fuel to do this same mission.
Yeah, we could have done this yesterday if it failed, but we would have actually lost around 500 Delta V in getting to the same result.
So overall, will we be waiting for years? Yes. Yes, we will. We just posted a video today. If none of you have seen it, I strongly recommend you go and watch it. We posted a brand new video today about our 14-day moon mission to it's technically more if you count the
16 days
station launch too.
Yeah.
The crew portion was 14 days. Send a moon station, position it around the moon, and then send a crew to meet it and perform some science there. They brought a lander with them to store at the station. They did not go landing, but that video came out today if you want to pump the algorithm.
No, and I've had a couple questions still why we didn't have them land, and the overall answer, which I don't know if I explained properly, was because both of those rockets used the fuel that was stored in the moon station, and the regolith used the fuel that was stored in the lander itself in order to aid itself on the mission. And by the time we had everything docked up, there's just not enough fuel to get that lander entirely fueled and have all it needs to get to the surface of the moon and back.
The next regolith crew needs to bring with them, instead of a lander on top of their rocket, they need to bring with them a tank of fuel to refill the station and the lander. And using that tank of fuel, that will give them enough Delta V to get to the surface and back. So because the CAPS Regolith 1 crew had to take the lander with them, it has more weight, and they had to use more fuel. And because they had to use more fuel, they didn't have enough left over to go to the surface. So it was never really planned to land for the first trip. We had to take the lander there. But now, since they don't have the weight of the lander, they can theoretically take extra fuel with them. That extra fuel will go back into the lander with the second crew, and that extra fuel will let them land instead.
And another thing I'd like to note is that this is our first time playing in real solar system, real scale, and very technically, we've never landed Kerbals on the moon before. Like the actual stock Kerbal moon, I've done at least over 100 landings over several thousand hours of playing this game.
On the moon at this point. We've done 20 landings on the moon in one mission, it seems.
But at this point, it is still kind of nerve-wracking knowing that I have not done this. It is still new territory to me, and making sure everything is prepped just right is essential. So like if there's a doubt about whether or not the lander will have enough fuel to get to the surface and back, it's not a go for mission. We do have our own mission tolerance and scrub points that we will obey.
Anyone who watched the doubleheader launch with us a couple weeks ago knows, there are definitely scrub points. We had to cancel one of the station intersects and pivot to a completely different launch because the intersect calculator was wrong. The overpass calculator was giving us wrong times, and so the lack of proper positioning meant we called a scrub at about 5 minutes, 10 minutes to launch. So yeah, we will. It doesn't happen too often. We try to prepare before we go live, but there will be occasions where equipment part fails, staging fails. For example, we recognize that there's a component that's not operating or not configured correctly, and we may have to call a scrub from time to time. That did not happen today, just to be clear. You can see here almost 100 minutes since launch now. Just about to hit 99 minutes since launch, and you can see Gale Weaver now further from Earth than it's ever been. You know, it's weird, Deadbeat. You sit and look there, down there on the surface. This probe was sitting there just 100 minutes ago. Sitting still, 0 meters per second. And now here it is.
And now as we're getting closer to the time that we're going to make our burn, it is time to stow away the camera. The camera will offset the balance of this craft significantly, so it cannot stay out while we're burning. It needs to be in its stowed position.
So we're going to go ahead and stow the camera away. Once again, nice view of the mission flag right there from undersea. You can see the piston coming in. Everything folding away, getting a view now as it folds away. Up close. Just there to the below the SPES, you can see the official Kerbal Real-Time taxpayer logo. Give us your money, please. Give us your money. Now getting even closer to that predetermined burn time. It's looking very nice here. Just waiting for those last few degrees to tuck in so you can see Now we have the transfer stage on the left side of the screen. We have the probe, Gale Weaver probe, on the right side of the screen. And is that South or North Pole behind us, Deadbeat?
That would be the South Pole, I believe.
We have a view of the...
Yeah. We are kind of heading
Excellent.
south right now.
A view of the South Pole, then. Aurora's around the South Pole there in the background. Getting a view here of our current path. You can see the multi-phased approach that Deadbeat was talking about here. That second stage gave us a kick, sort of like a kick stage, in order to get into this elliptical orbit. Gave us also some extra speed for as we depart away. And now we're going to be doing an even longer, even more aggressive 32,000 meter per second burn in order to get us to Neptune. And as we talked about earlier, this will not be like a home-in transfer, not a normal transfer whatsoever. We will not be capturing at Neptune. We won't be approaching it slowly. That would be a multi-year process. I think we looked at it 11 years, something like that, for the initial transfer that we had designed.
The initial transfer, which was around 10,000 meters per second, only got us there in around 11 years.
That's the efficient way to do it. If all of us wanted to reconvene in 2037, we could certainly do so. But we've decided to take the much more expedient and slightly more scientific approach to try and get data from the atmosphere itself. So we're going to intersect it about 3 times as fast as we typically would. That means that as Neptune comes in front of us in its orbit, we're going to come screaming by it at a 90-degree angle, passing just in front of where it will be heading, and it should collide into us, like running out in front of a NASCAR car.
All right, I'm getting that feeling in my stomach like I should be burning, so we're going to start our burn here in just a moment. Make sure the camera's stowed away. Make sure this one is locked. We're going to begin nuclear burn.
Starting the nuclear burn now. And in some great news, if we look over the whole course of the mission today so far, we've had a successful pre-launch, countdown into launch. The booster, the Staghorn-6, successfully lofted the Gale Weaver probe and the second stage up into a low Earth orbit. The Staghorn-6 was recovered. The second stage successfully completed placing it in an elliptical orbit. That second stage has since dropped away. We're now here on the transfer stage, the Neptune injection stage, of which we have started that burn now. If we look at the details here, you can see a long time, half an hour or so, left on just this nuclear burn. And then beyond that, once we complete those few 1,000 meters per second, we'll then begin the long burn, the electric burn using the Dawn Xenon engine, and that will complete the remainder of the injection. To confirm the remaining plan for the stream, we'll stay live for just a little bit longer as we work on this nuclear burn, and then once we finally complete that separation, that will indicate the end of the festivities for today, and we'll have to continue to follow along on the website at that point. But for now, we can see Looks like we've just reached an escape velocity. Speed still actively being corrected. You can see the launch director, Grateful Deadbeat, working away on the particulars of the ejection angle and the ejection speed. And this is your Public Relations Director for CAPS, Admiral Radish, back here again. You can see here that we're getting live views of the nuclear burn. This is the nuclear burn here for the Gale Weaver probe as it departs to Neptune. You can see the probe there from the decoupler in the middle of the craft, the probe being the right side, including the Dawn engine and the Xenon tanks, and the kick stage being the left side there. That's the transfer stage, including the radiators, the nuclear engine. All of that will be taking the craft to Neptune. And then in the background, a view of Earth as we continue now to accelerate even faster, even further away, now exiting, guaranteed to exit the sphere of influence.
And this is Grateful Deadbeat. Here we can see Sri Lanka, and there is the coast of India. Of course, you all know the Strait of Hormuz.
Get a nice view of it here.
And I want to say these are the lights of Johannesburg in South Africa.
Excellent. So, able to see the South Pole, some areas on the Eastern Hemisphere. You can also see the auroras down there as we continue to depart away from Earth. For those of you who are just joining, we're now an hour and 50 minutes past launch. Gale Weaver is departing Earth, making its trans-Neptune injection, and we are entering into the last part of the stream for today, as we continue to deplete the remaining fuel in this transfer stage. Looking here now, we can see, as we look even closer at the particulars, we're at about the, I'd say about 5 minutes remaining mark here on this portion of the burn. You can see the Earth there in the background, and of course here on the probe, right in front, all those colorful little patches, the various community stickers and flags that were given to us by all of the taxpayers on our Discord server. The links for those are in the chat if you want to join and contribute to future missions. Overall, all looking good so far as we continue the injection burn. And here we can see the cooling in action. Those radiator edge panels, of course, attached to the tank that corresponds with the nuclear engine, those letting off the heat and the thermal energy coming off of the nuclear engine. If you're not familiar with the construction of the nuclear engine, they run extremely hot. So adding extra radiators is a must for these extended duration burns. And if you're just joining us, this is Admiral Radish. Your pilot today has been Grateful Deadbeat. We're currently approaching the 2-hour mark. We're watching the live nuclear burn there with the Earth occluded by the plume of the nuclear engine as we depart away from Earth. This craft heading towards Neptune on a multi-year collision course with one of the atmospheres in the Neptune system. We're currently targeting the atmosphere of Neptune itself, but there's a chance that we will target one of the other bodies for an intercept into the atmosphere. This mission is guaranteed a fiery demise, so to speak. If you want to follow along with this mission after the end of today's stream, you can find information and a live tracker at KerbalRealtime.com or at our Discord server, Kerbal Realtime. You can see there the work being done by those radiators in order to maintain the cooling, but it does look like they've held off. Sort of capped out at a balanced level right there at the sort of maximum threshold, as we're over halfway. We're well through the burn period now, as we're waiting for the sort of final confirmation of burn time. Looks like we're at just about 11.5 minutes on the burn right now. After the completion of this burn here, now in about 11 minutes, we'll expect to see a decoupling of the Gale Weaver probe. This will be the last and final decoupling for the mission, for the entirety of the mission duration, as the Gale Weaver probe comes out on its own, and then activation of the Dawn electrical engine, which will be using those xenon gas tanks both on the side of the vessel and located in the MTM core stage. And with the combination of those xenon sources, we should have the remaining delta V necessary to intercept with Neptune, as well as have a few thousand delta V left over for maneuvering purposes. So once again, just waiting for the next, looks like about 10 minutes, for the next 10 minutes, as we work on completing the kicker/transfer stage burn here with the nuclear engine. We can see that the cooling percentage there on those panels has ticked up by about 0.02. We're very, very thinly balanced now here on the edge of that cooling maximum. But it looks as though everything is remaining thermally positive, and we are green. Go to continue the burn. Continuing with the burn now, another minute in, 9 minutes left. You can see, if we also look at the altitude, earlier we marked when we crossed 1 million meters at an earlier part of the transfer burns. And now we can see here, as we're rapidly approaching what looks like 20,000 kilometers, continuing to accelerate. We'll be approaching that 20,000 kilometer mark. Around the same time, you can see here we'll be passing that 9,900 meter per second mark, rapidly accelerating towards 10,000 meters per second. This is just one small component of the escape velocity that we will need to intercept Neptune at the angle we're currently going. This is, we said it earlier in the stream, an aggressive approach angle. We'll be coming in front of Neptune as it crosses in its orbit at an extremely high rate of speed, which will make, unfortunately, the eventual aero braking and aero entry maneuver into the Neptunian atmosphere a disastrous and mission-ending entry. But the goal during that period to get science and data back to Earth from the Neptunian atmosphere, or if we decide to go to one of the moons, from that location as well. Getting a nice view of all of the stickers sent in by the community there. One last time with the transfer stage attached. The transfer stage itself will become, unfortunately, debris. Although this will become debris in orbit around the sun, which will have a considerably lower impact than in other locations. There's also a small chance in the future that it could be picked up by Earth's sphere of influence again, although that will have to be determined. We're past 2 hours now, T plus 2 hours and 4 minutes. We're rapidly approaching the end of this nuclear burn now, getting closer and closer now to the 6-minute mark. Still looking thermally positive, and we can see that our trajectory now taking us almost to the orbit of Jupiter at this point. Of course, no probes currently targeting Jupiter in the save, but as we go past Jupiter and approach Saturn, do have to take a moment to recognize the Valorant probe, which will be heading to Saturn and capturing there for long-term study. So, with the inclusion of the probe today, we have probes now targeting Pluto, Neptune, Saturn, and we'll be launching the Mars Deep Space Relay here very shortly. There are opportunities in August for launches to Uranus, for example, and there are regular interval launches that we can use to target Venus as well.
And we are now at the solar altitude of Jupiter, and to mention Jupiter, that launch window opens in October, and we do plan on sending a probe that will stay in orbit around Jupiter, potentially flying by moons several times.
In October. And then
we will not be arriving in October.
Launching
we will be
in October.
Launching in October.
And then looking here, regular intervals for Venus and for Mercury, which we'll definitely be having a public forum discussion on targeting Venus in the near future. There are some discussions to be had on pressure and pressure limits, which will inhibit our ability to land unless we come up with a more rigorous scientific workaround to account for those pressure differentials. And then lastly, Mercury, which we are planning on targeting not necessarily for a landing mission, but as part of a series of flybys for a solar probe that is being worked on and designed for launch in the near future. That will be an ongoing mission, outcomes pending. To get close to the sun and the save is a complete unknown to the both of us, and so the design and testing of that probe is actively underway. Looking here at the state of the craft, we're now well within.
I do have to say, as the flight director, we are throttling back the engine as it is compromising the integrity of the probe.
Yeah, we can see that there. There's some thermal bleed through now on the upper part of the tank. It looks like through the connecting points. You can see the cooling of those radiators is working away full bore. Even with the reduced throttle, we're still about to be within, looking here, we're within about 7 minutes still at that reduced throttle rate. Going up, we can see, puts us at about the 5.5 minute mark there. So with that, that should,
It's the batteries. The batteries are warming up.
Alternator.
I'll tell you why. It's because of the alternator
Our
output.
is charging them up. Which will, as soon as we switch to electric.
And we need, those are very important
Yes, we need
batteries.
them for,
They are used.
we need those for the electric engine in order to operate the Dawn Xenon properly. So we do need them charged fully. So even at this reduced burn rate, we're now within 5 minutes of the separation of the transfer stage, which will be drifting.
Has anybody tried, like, putting nuclear engines and the Xenon engine into the same stage so that you can, like, really throttle down your nuclear engine, and that way it's giving you alternator output for your Xenon engine?
Yeah, you just set it down. You just set it
Jupiter
down
probe
to
idea.
One thrust output.
Oh, I'm gonna have to test that. I've never thought about that. As using a nuclear engine as the power source for another engine.
It's
for
an
the
interesting
Dawn
concept.
engine.
I quite like it. Not quite as much as hypersonic rotorcraft, but we'll get there.
And I do want to say, just kind of at the end here, all of those flags did weigh about 0.002 tons. And that is Delta V taken away from this mission, and I am not sad about it whatsoever. It was roughly about 150 Delta V, I think, actually. But, definitely worth it. On this scale, that's only going to be like a few hours off.
And the few hours is absolutely worth the joy of getting to look at those stickers every time we switch to it now on the camera.
We're just going to go for broke here. Don't have much time left.
Nope, we're now within the last 100 seconds.
I don't think.
You can see as we count down the very last throws of this kick transfer stage. Setting Neptune now as our target.
I believe that was the auto engine shutoff. Getting too hot.
Might have been, but we are approaching the last minute. We're coming within the last 60 seconds now with this transfer stage. Once again, we're expecting shutoff of the transfer stage. And then there will be likely a small period of correction. And then ignition of the ion engine as well, which will indicate that we are on the last phase of this mission, which will put us on an intercept course with Neptune. Now, in the last 20 seconds, things looking okay. And 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we have cutoff of the transfer stage and successful separation of the Gale Weaver probe, now on its own. And there we're getting a nice shot of it finally separating away from the transfer stage. This means that we successfully have deployed in 2 hours and 12 minutes since launch the Gale Weaver probe. The quick mission recap: we have takeoff from Guam at 23:55, successful recovery of the Staghorn 6 booster, successful deployment of the second stage, successful deployment of the transfer stage, which you just saw has finished its portion of the burn, as now the electric Dawn engine carries the Gale Weaver probe away to Neptune. On board, the stickers, flags, and emblems of the Kerbal Real-Time community. Getting a nice view there of the complete craft with the Earth in the background. The time now, 2:08, 47 UTC, about 2 hours and 13 minutes, almost 2 hours and 14 minutes since launch. And checking the internal chatter, everything appears to be a success at this point.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are power positive.
A power positive Xenon probe.
Wow, this is our first time getting it right,
Which means
ladies and
we
gentlemen.
now have...
So that 7-hour, 35-minute mark is absolutely
Excellent.
correct.
Excellent work. A round of applause all around. A successful Neptune mission, off and away. Now begins the process of monitoring the burn and ensuring that we are right on bullseye as we come into tomorrow. So down there in the Pacific Ocean, a recovered Staghorn 6 booster, an empty launch pad in Guam, and Gale Weaver, the Neptune probe, on its way out into the solar system, getting one last view of Earth. This is the last time it will ever see it up close in a few years after a long voyage across our solar system, past the gas giants, and out to Neptune. It will be colliding with the atmosphere there in a few years' time. The current targeted time, approximately 1,000 days. We'll have a specific intercept here in the near future once the burn is complete. And we're just working on getting some final views here from the Kronos probe as it begins its voyage. There we go. A view from the stowed camera, rotated out, just slightly looking backwards. This is a view out the back of the craft as we head away.
We're going to attempt to get a close zoom in on Sri Lanka.
I can see where you're going for there. And there we go. Yes, you can see it. Plain as day right there. The Strait of Hormuz at the top of the screen. The Indian subcontinent there. Sri Lanka at the bottom.
This is the Himalayas right through here. Up here, I believe this is the Caspian Sea. I might be wrong.
Really just a great view. The last look at Earth of Gale Weaver, now departing to Neptune. With the decoupling of the probe, I'm going to go ahead and fade out the mission calendar, the mission timer, excuse me, while we sit and take some looks at Earth. Last looks here from Gale Weaver. And if you're just joining, that would be the South Pole to the top right side of the Earth. You can see Strait of Malacca there, sort of in the glare of the sun. Australia just peeking off of the bottom left corner. And then center screen, the Indian subcontinent with Iran and the Strait of Hormuz at the top of the screen. So we pan a little bit to the left. There we go. Getting a look at Australia there now.
Got a storm coming for him. You can see Malaysia.
Yes, you can. Malaysia, Singapore. And to top it all off, we have a power positive probe heading off into the solar system. With the cameras aboard, this means that we have many good years of camera views to come, and then planning for a long-term mission. Coming back in here. One last final set of looks here at the probe. You can see power positive, ion engine running, 7 hours and 40 minutes approximately on the burn remaining, with some light mid-course adjustments along the way.
And if you're wondering about the slight difference between the maneuver line and our actual projected path, it is not going to affect us too much at this stage. Like he said, we're going to be doing a couple adjustments along the way. But for now, as long as we have the same parallel ejection angle to that line,
and we will, as we said earlier, we haven't picked the final target within the Neptunian system as to what we'll be pointing towards for the final collision path. So the specifics, as long as we're within the correct general area, the specific target is not as important today. Like Deadbeat said, just going in the right direction is the most important step for us. Looking forward on the calendar, if you've joined us today, thank you for being here. We do have some upcoming items.
Thank you all.
We have the launch of the Mars Deep Space Network. That'll be taking place on Wednesday, currently scheduled for, as well as a monthly crew transfer for the Collaborative Space Station next Saturday. We may have a impromptu stream or two in between now and then, but 2 items on the immediate agenda. And next week, next Thursday, currently planning on launching the Gazella moon rover, the replacement for the Scarab, which met its unfortunate and untimely end during one of our previous streams that will not be named. But I strongly recommend you go watch the video for that under our live stream VODs. With that, I think we have reached our denouement for the day. We have a probe successfully pointed into interplanetary space, on its way, burning and power positive. We've had a, for all accounts and purposes, completely successful mission test from start to end. The mission design, execution, and timing was all right on the money, and it looks like we'll have some extra Delta V in our budget for course corrections, maneuvers, and final targeting of the eventual intercept node for Gale Weaver. So a round of applause to everyone who participated today, who contributed to the mission, who has helped support Kerbal Real-Time. This has been a rousing success in getting off the ground today, and most importantly, getting into deep space. Grateful Deadbeat, any last words?
I once again would like to thank absolutely everybody who sent in their stickers. If anyone feels like they missed out on this opportunity, next time we head out to a gas giant, you better believe we're doing it again. So the rules were 1 sticker per user on the Discord, and everything must be appropriate.
Everyone did a great job.
So they all did a great job. No flags had to be rejected. Every single one was put on this craft. So you all understood the assignment. We loved it.
Thank you all for participating. We're now, as one final look here, 2 hours, 23 minutes, and 40 seconds since launch, which is just an incredible length of time for you all to come and support us for, and most importantly, to be invested in the Gale Weaver probe as it starts what is, for it, a multi-year voyage across our planetary system and across our solar system. I have been Admiral Radish.
Thank you very much. I've been Grateful
joining us
Deadbeat.
Today. Thank you for being here, and come and join us in our Discord chat where we will be discussing the mission live. Thank you all for participating today, and we will see you all soon.